You're playing versus D2 Hustlers. They've got the tried and true Snapfire Faceless Void. Do you want to play offline Bloodseeker into this? Do you want Vitaly to be a stunner, or are you going to pick Arctic Hero here? Those are your three options. And honestly, it's a little bit scary. We've seen the Yuma Faceless Void before. That was their old strategy when they had a slightly different roster that worked every single time. It had a disgustingly high win rate. You got Yuma on Void, you got to that 40-minute mark, and then you won. That was how it went. Once you get 25, you get that third Roche possibly, or even build an Ags of your own. You can't kill him, especially with the lineup that you have right now. Hokori don't have the best burst damage. It's very slow going, so Faceless Void is going to play incredibly well into it. And I do like that they go for the Gartic Treant Protector. It's one of the best heroes to play into that Snapfire. But it definitely feels like now Hokori are going to play for that later timing, and they're playing almost directly into the hands of D2 Hustlers.
And the second D2 Hustlers see that, they start focusing in on some of those harder carries. You see that Medusa being banned out right away. So Hokori, to a certain extent, playing into a style that D2 Hustlers are going to be able to predict. Not sure how well they'll play against it, but they should know what's coming. And with this lineup, this is actually kind of interesting, because normally you look at this and that Faceless Void Snapfire combo, it is impressive, but it doesn't always play nice with the Storm of the Pangolier. But on the other hand, that gives D2 Hustlers now a significant all-in combo that they can throw out into a team fight, and the Storm and the Pangolier to potentially find pickoffs in between. That's always the thing when we see teams go for these sort of longer cooldown spells. We always have to ask the question, what do they do in between the cooldowns of the Chronospheres? The Storm is going to give them that option to continue the aggression even when the Faceless Void isn't directly in the fight.
Yeah, and really like the bans from Hokori, taking out the Brewmaster hero that typically gets overlooked in a lot of situations, and it's one that some people might be scratching their head saying, oh, they've got a Faceless Void. Why wouldn't you want another offlaner to dump more damage into that Chronosphere? Into that, I say it is when they don't have that Chronosphere, where they need a little bit more oomph in these team fights, where already right off the bat, you're going to be committing 2 of your ultimates whenever that Chronosphere is down. So then it is going to be a 3.5v5 whenever Hokori decide to take those engagements, and ones where D2 Hustlers definitely need to shore up their problems right now, especially with Mr. Jeans on the Storm Spirit. You want someone else creating those opportunities. With the way that Mr. Jeans likes to play his Storm, he likes to wait for those TP rotations. He only makes moves when he gets those runes, and if he doesn't, he'll definitely take the farm. But that's where a more active Hokori lineup could definitely start to outpace you, in something that the analog invoker is very good at creating. Whenever he gets this invoker, he is always making trips to the safe lane, to the off lane. He is very active when he gets to play this invoker. He's very rotation heavy, and of course, sometimes he falls behind in the farm a little bit, but it's where D2 Hustlers lineup really starts to grind to a halt if those plays aren't being made. And I think that's where in Monsters Hero, you need somebody who's going to be that active fighter, who's maybe going to go for a Blink Dagger. I'd love a hero like the Sand King picked up for them. I think we've seen Monster play it a couple times already in this tournament. I think they need that constant fight right now. They need to get something to get that counterplay going. And Slardar is not a Sand King, but at least it's something. It shores up the Roche a little bit, but that ain't a Sand King.
You don't quite have the same range of motion, which I know for the Slardar, you can always try to use the sprint to sort of make up for that, but sprint is not Burrow, so you don't have that quite immediate move in until the Slardar finishes off something along the lines of a blink, which, depending on how much farming priority they give him, he could get fairly quickly. But you look at the other two cores, Faceless Void and Storm, it feels like they're going to be soaking up 90 to 95% of those available resources around the time the Slardar would be wanting to farm his way towards a fast Blink Dagger. So
yeah, the Troll.
A little bit concerning there, and now more concerning with the Troll Warlord picked up on the other side. RDO, he knows what he's doing with that hero, and it really does feel like Hokori have put themselves in a comfortable position. Maybe Vitaly on the Bloodseeker is the lone core pick where we'd say maybe that's not what they would have wanted, but their lineup is looking pretty good. They do always have to be wary of that Faceless Void sort of jumping in onto them, but outside of that, it feels like they've got lockdown, they've got damage, and they've got durability in most circumstances.
Yeah, and the reason I wasn't suggesting this Slardar is you can't pick Slardar blind into your core matchup. If you had already seen your safe lane carry here, then I think you feel a little bit more happy with what you're going for, but Now you're playing versus RDO Troll. Of course, a troll that does have to worry about the Chronosphere, does have to worry about the kisses. It's one of those things where if you can catch him where he has to ult, where he's at 0% HP, he gets stuck, slowed up by those Mortimer's kisses, gets stunned up. Okay, sure, you're cutting a Troll Warlord. But that makes the Slardar more or less a non-factor. That is an absolutely brutal lane for the Slardar, one where Divine Llama is going to need to carry his teammate. And of course, I think you can get very heavily aggressive on the Treant Protector. You are playing Slardar versus Treant, which is not typically good for the tree. But I also feel like that's where it's just too bad of a matchup, and it's too easy of a counter pick where Hokori just get to do it for really no risk. And of course, they have last pick, but they got exactly what they wanted. They got an Alacrity carry that can force down objectives that D2 Hustlers can't always defend because of how cooldown reliant their combo is. So I really don't like this Slardar pick. I really think they put themselves in a little bit of a hole here that they couldn't have. They could have just picked Sand King and had a much different lane, but I feel like it would have felt a lot better in the long term. But maybe D2 Hustlers know something I don't.
And maybe they do give that Slardar the farming priority that we were saying would be a little hard to come by. Because if you can't get that Blink Dagger or that sort of first major item up at a decent time, then the Slardar can still have that sort of active role. It's just, do you really want to give him that farming priority instead of someone like Mr. Jeans or Yuma? So maybe that is the call. Maybe they roll Monster early into a blink, get him going with the aggression between himself and Divine Llama, and we'll sort of circle back on that discussion and see where that puts them if that is the focus. Other than that, though, I don't know. Feels like Monster's impact may be sort of lost in the shuffle a little bit here. But the other thing, you were sort of talking about this troll along with the Invoker. It does give them so much of an ability to just really work through your towers. You'll have El Misho to a certain extent later on as well with the Focus Fire. Don't think he's going to go directly for that damage build, but he can contribute in a way that maybe the Pangolier or the Snapfire won't be able to do quite as consistently. So if you're D2 Hustlers and you start falling behind, you start opening up some of those options for Hokori to push your towers, you're going to be losing them very quickly.
Yep, and that's where you really do have the perfect carry to play versus a cooldown reliant team. And it really is a big concern for me because not just that, it's not just about the objectives in the buildings, but it's also with Roshan, where if you find an opening to go into the pit, Troll is one of the easiest carries where at any stage of the game, you go in, you hit the Roshman, and he dies. There's not much you can do about it. Of course, he's on Ursa, so it does take a little bit of time, but it does happen. It just is always a forcing play that Hokori can rely on. I'm just really concerned about this top lane, and they're not even rotating to try and make it a little bit better because they want Yuma to have as good a lane as possible versus a lane that really can't put too much aggression onto him. But that's where I really think that D2 Hustlers have to sit in lanes that are quite unideal for them. If they kill Gardic 3 times, okay, sure, maybe.
Monster actually queued up a bash for himself. He's trying to get that first hit, but that is the downside. It's going to be the next attack no matter what. Can't exactly toggle that one on and off, so eventually he just has to go after the creep, which means Gardic and RDO, they're going to push in. They've got the slow with the range on the troll. They're going to do a fair bit of damage, and this is the downside to this duo. We talked about in the draft maybe they can get a little bit aggressive, but Monster has to be right up in their face to be able to make that play happen, and if you see Monster suddenly charging towards you, that's going to be Gardic's Q. Throw down the slow. Do exactly what they're doing right now, as Monster's going to get hit up again, and he's got to pop the Fairy Fire now to get himself away. So a lot of that regen getting burned out here in the first minute and a half of this lane.
Yep, and this isn't even the worst part. Once you have the Berserker's Rage, of course, now you have the Blind if he ever walks up to you, and...
Devi?
Oh, Devi.
Leech Seed's there. They throw out the Nature's Grasp, and Devi, he's dead. One more hit. There it is. Gardic's able to get it. First blood goes their way, and... well, so far it's looking exactly the way we thought it kind of would, as Monster is going to have to bash, or crush rather, defensively to keep RDO off of him.
Yeah, and they're doing the same thing they did in their previous lane, at least in the early stages. They are forcing pretty heavily into the D2 Hustlers side, but that's what you get to do whenever you're laning versus a pretty weak lineup. And Gardic is going for the stack of the small camp, it looks like. Also doing a nifty job blocking out the large, but it does feel like unless they can really get the counterplay going on the Gardic, and they're trying right now.
Good cookie stun.
Who's the
Can they
in-range
get
of
the
the
crush? He should be closing the gap. Actually, yeah, he is faster.
No, I think he's going to be able to walk it out.
Doesn't get the
Yep,
courier
that's
either. Oh,
unfortunate.
man. That's a lot of time out of lane now as well to not get that kill. If you find the pickoff, you feel a little bit better about it, but RDO is just in the lane by himself, and now we start to talk about a level discrepancy. RDO's level 3. He's got the point up in the fervor, so if he starts going sort of downhill towards one of these heroes, they're going to be in a little bit more trouble than they otherwise would have been had this been a bit more even.
And RDO did a really good job of meeting the creep waves as well, so the little creep pull that Devi had going for him isn't going to work out either. I don't know. There's a reason why this lane is as terrible, and in the bottom lane, they're trying to get aggressive onto Vitaly a little bit there with the point up in the time dilation, but this is another lane that's very difficult for them to win, where it feels like, at least out of the laning stage, they get to have a lot of fun.
That play would have made more sense if Yudomi had taken Swashbuckle at level 2. He actually went for the lucky shot instead. So that makes you so RNG sort of dependent for that one. And now as soon as Yudomi's back in the lane, he's in danger of getting knocked back out of it. That...
Okay.
Oh boy, Yudomi... I mean, you try it with this maybe slightly unconventional build. It doesn't work the first time. He immediately tries again, and the result is exactly the same. And now Yuma... I mean, he's just getting pushed back under his tower. This is unbelievably beneficial for Hokori right now.
Yep, and unfortunately for them, you get to just watch Vitaly sit there, deny creeps, last hit creeps, you don't have any pressure onto it, and they're so terrified of the shackle actually landing that Vitaly has free range over the lane, and El Misho, who had no HP because of all the spells dumped onto him, gets to tango up and get the pulls off. There is a lot going wrong right now for D2 Hustlers, and something that I don't even think the Storm Spirit can necessarily fix, because Mr. Jeans, again, he plays that greedy version of Storm Spirit where he is more likely to sit and rely on his own game than he is to ever try and fix his teammates to his own benefit, but it also means that there isn't an easy out for this laning stage. They just have to sit here and really take the L.
Mr. Jeans is at least able to get some rune control there back in the middle lane, getting those water runes up and running. So, yeah, you just have to hope he hits level 6 soon and gets some sort of power rune at that 6-minute mark to make a rotation. Until then, those side lanes are unfortunately on their own. So, gonna have to sort of weather the storm on this early aggression and hope for the best. And on the Hokori side, I mean, the thing is, this has not necessarily been situations where they're just playing insanely aggressively. They've just been taking opportunities like that one as Yudomi. He was too far forward. They're able to push him back. They get the power shot in for the kill. El Misho connects with a shackle, and if you're the Pango, I know you're used to playing forward in the lane in that supporting position, but in this instance, you really can't afford to, because Yuma cannot provide him any backup other than a level 1 dilation.
Yep, there's nothing that the Void could do to help his teammate. In addition to that, they're playing really well around the fact that Yudomi just doesn't have a game. He is even walking mid right now to take a little bit of XP from his Storm Spirit, as Mr. Jeans is also getting slowed down inherently because you're playing versus that Quaswex Invoker. So Yuma needs to be really careful in this bottom lane. Right now they're not showing anywhere because they're trying to bait him in on that range creep, but
now that they see Yudomi mid,
problem. Yeah.
And especially if they see Mr. Jeans. Yeah, Mr. Jeans just TP'd in. He's not going to be able to get... Okay, no, he's still going for it. He's got a lot of mana left to work with, so Analog going to have to hold his ground here. He'll throw the EMP down. That will not be enough. So Analog falls, but the second they see 2 confirmed mid, Vitaly and El Misho make their move down bot. Yuma unable to get away. And that is a trade for D2 Hustlers that they really did need. They had to get that kill onto Analog, but again, it's going to come at a cost, and now Yudomi is going to get picked off, and up in the top lane, Monster very nearly finished off as well. He is going to be able to fall back in time, though, but Hokori are not taking their foot off the gas right now. Even in a situation where they're going to lose out on a hero mid, they continue to make moves as Devi is going to get slowed up. That tornado doesn't hit. Devi's able to jump away. Yudomi TP's in, and okay. Analog's rotation is a little bit too late, and he doesn't quite have the range that he needed there. If that tornado does come through, I'm pretty sure Devi can't get away with just the cookie, but a little bit of good fortune for him as he's able to back off, and now your Invoker has come top, or came top, for very little. He's not really farming up
Yeah.
in the jungle either. He's just going all the way back mid.
That's where Analog does need to be very careful because he likes to play this rotation heavy style of Invoker. Typically, he ends up falling behind a lot of the other cores in the game. And if those rotations don't work out, that's where a player like Mr. Jeans is going to immediately take away that space from you. And you take a look at net worth, there is a very big lead right now for Mr. Jeans. He's been a little bit too successful in his jungle play style and making a rotation towards the top lane.
And then
There are a
TP's
lot
bot.
of heroes here, but yeah, bot.
That's weird, but if they can get onto Vitaly, it's going to work. But there's that silence preventing Mr. Jeans from zipping in. Vitaly's looking for the TP home, and he's got it. Only level 1 on the time lock. They don't quite have it. Wouldn't have affected the hit chance too much with level 2, but they needed it. Meanwhile, top, yeah, Devi going to get jumped in on. They saw the rotation bot, so the heroes top are the only ones that could have possibly been there, and that is somehow perfect for Hokori. They don't lose their own hero. They find a kill. Now Monster again. Got to get pressured up. I don't think they really want to chase him under the tower, but this just continues to not be a fun game for the Slardar here. His net worth is honestly not as bad as it could be, but
Misho.
Where's his game right now? Is he really? Wow, that's... He's got the shackle.
Nah.
Okay. Devi's coming over. Yuma's here as well, so El Micho,
Oh, no?
he may be punished for this one. There's going to be the cookie stun coming in. Yuma doesn't want to use the Chrono here for just the Wind Ranger, but he's going to have to. Yeah. Well, that doesn't feel fantastic, but it's going to get Yuma a kill, presumably. There we go. One last hit in there to make it happen. So, if you're El Micho, maybe you're trying to do a little bit too much on that one, hunting down the Storm Spirit that far back, but you send the Storm Spirit back to base, and Yuma has to commit that Chronosphere. But now if Vitaly gets picked off, that sacrifice is not going to look nearly as impressive, as they have a 4v1 here. Vitaly just has no way out, and yeah, that was sticking around too long for the Bloodseeker. Wasn't even really getting much significant damage onto the tower, so probably should have pulled back when he had the chance, but D2 Hustler is able to take advantage and punish him for sticking around.
Yeah, and that's where Analog has been trying to catch up in the mid lane a little bit, but at the same time, he's trying to play where the Storm Spirit isn't, and Monster makes the same play on the other side of the map, and he sticks around too long.
Okay. Okay. Tower shots were dropping him low. Ardio's going to step in to take that aggro, though, so he should be just fine. And Analog, a much-needed kill for this Invoker. His first of the match, 1-1 and 2, is obviously not a bad stat line, but he needs to keep pace with some of the other cores. He's moved up into 4th. That still leaves him about 700 or 800 behind the Storm, but we are starting to see him get a little bit more involved. He's got that first point up in the Exort now as well, so damage-wise, I mean, the spells aren't going to hit massively hard, but he now has access to the full sort of range of offensive abilities.
Yeah, and that's also where we are going to see Hokori probably group up a little bit more, especially around those 10-minute cards. I'm surprised Vitaly should be fine here, but Mr. Jeans, okay.
Zipping in. El Micho's going to try. It's a good attempt there with the shackle, but it's not going to be enough. So Vitaly starting to see a little bit more pressure coming his way as well, which is kind of fair enough to D2 Hustlers. If they try to make a play onto Analog, or really RDO for that matter, that's going to be tougher kills for them to get. They need detection for the Invoker, and they need to lock down the Troll before he gets off the Battle Trance, whereas Vitaly, I mean, no BKB, no Atos, really nothing right now in terms of his ability to get away. So if they can continue to sort of hit onto that target, they're obviously going to do so. And if you're Hokori, I don't really know that you want to commit any more resources to defending him. You see Gardex just stacking up in the jungle here, so they would much rather set up the rest of the core trio for success as opposed to overcommitting to defend Vitaly.
Yeah, and that's where Mr. Jeans, they were playing really well on the Hokori side around Mr. Jeans' rotations before, but they lose track of him for a few moments, and suddenly Mr. Jeans is only, I think, 50 gold away from his Orchid, and then this is a huge threat on the map. He has it all the way finished right now, 11:30. That is a blisteringly fast Orchid, one where he's going to be able to punish everyone. If he can isolate more cores like the way he's been doing in this bottom lane, then it is just going to be more fuel for the fire. He's going to really start snowballing.
And I was saying before, plays onto Analog and RDO were going to be more difficult just inherently because of the heroes they're going after. But with the Orchid, if you silence the Invoker, he can't use the Ghost Walk. If you silence the Troll, he can't pop the ult. So that opens up more opportunities here for D2 Hustlers, and you see them trying to make a maneuver here. That 3-man smoke is getting them in opposite directions, actually. Devi and Mr. Jeans are moving towards the middle lane, while the Faceless Void did push top. Unfortunately for him, there's really no one to attack, and actually on the other side of the smoke gank, there's no one here either. So, swing and a miss for D2 Hustlers on that one, but you do see... Oh, hold up. Maybe not. RDO.
Cool.
They're going to jump in. There's going to be the silence. They've got him locked down for now. Mortimer Kiss is flying through, and RDO just no time to do anything, but they are bringing reinforcements here. Analog's in. Vitali's here. You see Elmisho and Gardic even getting involved. They're trying to lock down these core heroes, but Mr. Jeans is zipping away, so they've got to go for Monster. They're going to hit him up with the Rupture. That Overgrowth tried to clip the Storm as he was zipping in, but it doesn't quite work out the way that they want it to, and now Mr. Jeans used the last of his mana to try and get onto Analog, but now that means he actually doesn't have anything left to get away, and he's silenced by the Blood Rite. Mr. Jeans, I mean, it kind of felt like he was free and clear there, but he gets greedy going for the kill, and they may not even get it. The Invoker dropped low, but the Swashbuckle isn't enough. He has 30 HP, but he's going to be able to walk out of this. Yodomi now gets silenced up, and he will be the one to fall. Hokori initially didn't look like they were going to get much at all from that play. Monster got out with the Rupture on him. Mr. Jeans zips out, but a lack of mana and a little bit of greed sort of comes back to haunt them, and Hokori get 2 kills that they probably shouldn't have gotten.
Yeah, and Mr. Jeans didn't just zip out. He tried to zip onto Analog, who took so long to actually finish off the Llama, but you get hard punished for that after the fact. It's an unfortunate circumstance, but still, Mr. Jeans is not really going to change up his plan. He's going to continue to be aggressive on the opponent's side of the map, because as of right now, he still is the strongest hero in the game with this Orchid. But that's also where Monster, despite his laning situation, has a Blink Dagger. 14 minutes into the game. I think Hokori really missed their opportunity to punish the Slardar way more with either Elmisho or Analog coming in, and okay. Where's the Void?
Gardic's got the backup. Yeah, there he is, jumping in. Chrono on to 4. Elmisho, though, that is quite the shackle. That's going to break it up initially. Gardic will still fall, but they bought a hell of a lot of time. But now Yodomi, look at him rolling through. Connecting onto 3. Everybody dropped low and locked down. RDO will fall. Vitali has no way out of this fight as they'll take him down as well. And that was the Chrono. Even with Elmisho trying to make that hero play, it's just not enough. As soon as it wears off, he's back in for the damage, and they really did need that one. That's a convincing fight, and if you're Hokori, I mean, obviously you don't anticipate, I suppose, that he's going to come all the way down from the north there, but if you are grouping up to that extent, you have to, in any circumstance, have the Faceless Void's location accounted for. You cannot say we don't see Yuma, but we're still going in.
Yep, and that's also where Vitali was unable to get the Rupture down on the Pangolier before the roll actually got off, and now D2 Hustlers get to win a fight and then immediately retreat to their side of the map. All the pressure is on Hokori to now try and claw back some of that net worth lead, and unfortunately for them, they have a Spirit Vessel being built up on Analog. They have a Battle Fury on Troll. They are not nearly as active with their itemizations compared to D2 Hustlers, who are wholeheartedly active. And ooh, Tornado Whiffed. They might still get Devi.
Yeah, they're still going to make that play at least, so Devi should be going down, and should be going down. There you go. Last bit of damage comes in, and ET, something kind of interesting to know. You mentioned the Troll Warlord has a Battle Fury. Technically, that's not true yet. He's still building it. That is a problem. RDO, even if he finishes off the Battle Fury, we talk about it time and time again, Battle Fury, regardless of what your friend in pubs tells you, it is not a fighting item. It is just for farming and nothing else. So I don't think he's going to be able to contribute here. His teammates, though, well, they're still trying to make something happen. They push for the tower, but Monster blinks in. They hit him up immediately with the Rupture, though. And now your Slardar doesn't really have backup. Mr. Jeans tried to get in, but he was clipped by the Tornado. That's going to prevent him from really making a move. So Hokori, well, they didn't have the Troll really there to fight, but RDO says, I'm going to take the objective, and we're going to back out. You guys can handle the actual fighting, and they come away with an extra kill. Now Gardic takes the Illusion Rune away from Mr. Jeans. He may end up paying for this one, but, well, to be honest, that does kind of feel like it's worth it. Gardic is not going to be the highest value kill, and allowing Mr. Jeans to refill the bottle right now is probably not a good idea.
Yeah, and I think Mr. Jeans, or rather Monster, jumped the gun a little bit there. He was giving too good of a Rupture target over to Vitali, and actually, Yodomi, it's a little bit crazy for you to be dewarding like that, and is actually just straight up dead.
Yeah, Vitali gets the kill in the river, though. That's an interesting shackle. Yuma, though,
Chrono.
pushing in. Chrono's there. Doesn't want to use it on Almisho, though, but he's not going to have to. But now the Atos comes through. Vitali, however, has no rupture for a few more seconds. So maybe if you get the rupture and Analog wanted to sort of make a move, they could have tried for that, but they're going to play it safe. It's basically a one-for-one trade on those supports, and RDO, with the Battle Fury online, is going to take a rather sizable step forward in terms of that farming rate. So trying to buy time for him, as much time as they can possibly buy, which includes now defending this tier 1 tower.
Yeah, and oh, they got to be so careful here. They've got a good ward scouting, though. They see everything now.
Yep. Nice ward placement there, completely getting them the vision.
They didn't see Yuma.
Ooh.
They saw everyone but the Void.
There's the Chrono, and they did hit onto Vitali. They'll hit him up with the kisses as well. He will die, and now Almisho got jumped in by Mr. Jeans in the backline. Gardic now was a little bit too close to that one. They get vision on him for a real brief moment, but it's enough for Mr. Jeans to make the zip. He gets the double kill on the Storm, 3 kills in total, and now that tier 1 tower that Hokori needed to defend is going to come under quite a bit of pressure. Early glyph coming through, though. They're going to get it back if the tower falls, so you may as well try to pop it here to slow things down, but that's the operative word, slow. This will not prevent the tower from falling. With this many heroes and a new creep wave coming in, tier 1 mid will be claimed.
Yeah, I don't think that Hokori want to force it either, but this is what they have to do with their lineup. They did a really good job when they pushed that tier 1. As soon as that Chrono was committed, they know that Yuma can no longer show up to these fights. So now it's all on Hokori. Again, the pressure is there. They need to find their rebuttal play. You're probably going to see them smoke up very, very soon here, because if they're unable to get some kills that will either lead into the pit or into the bottom tier 2, they are not really able to play around the strengths of their lineup. And I think that's where with this smoke, they could sneak it with RDO. That's a big play that you can do with the troll at every stage of the game, especially if he is getting blood raged, but some good vision placed. If they whiff here, though, they're going to be far behind the 8 ball. Chrono is up in another 60 seconds here, and they can't afford to take another convincing team fight loss like that. Of course, it's not the worst case scenario, but they need to get something. They need some revenge play. Otherwise, they are going to severely fall behind their opponents.
Not really able to find anything right now. They at least did get that vision that you were mentioning before in the west side jungle. So while that doesn't set up for an immediate kill, maybe they can make a maneuver onto someone just trying to farm up in that triangle. But in terms of immediate benefits, well, what do? They're now grouped up. You mentioned the possibility for them to try and sneak Roshan, and well, considering the positioning of D2 Hustlers, if Hokori were willing to take that risk, they could potentially get away with it, but I don't think they have quite enough vision to confirm that D2 Hustlers are that spread out, so they're not looking forward. Instead, we see a bit of a maneuver towards the top lane here. The tier 1 tower would be a nice target for them, and they are going to be able to get onto Yodomi here as well. The tornado comes through into the cold snap. They get the silence down from the blood right. That should be a quick and easy kill for them into the tower push. The glyph comes through, but no one else is TPing over to defend it.
Yeah, they don't care about this tower, though. It's the least important tower for Radiant to play against, and look at all the space they get to play in the meantime. And I don't think that D2 Hustlers want to start a fight that Yodomi can't be at. He's been so good at finding that Rolling Thunder after the Chronosphere. He's been a real crucial member for them in those extended team fights, and I honestly don't think it's enough. I think that if Hokori just wait around, they aren't playing around really any timings right now. You even see Analog going back for the Midas, so that way he can stay relevant level-wise in this match. It just feels like Hokori are now really sitting on their hands, biding their time here, waiting for D2 Hustlers to give them an engagement that they're actively looking for right now in Vitali.
Have to get the jump in onto the Bloodseeker. Vitali with no defensive itemization other than the rod, and that's just not going to be enough. He will be taken down. Now Mr. Jeans zipped in for a bit. He is looking for El Misho. Got to conserve a little bit of mana, though, but they are going to be able to close that gap. As El Misho will be taken down, Analog will take the opportunity to TP away, but Hokori just can't seem to find any sort of initiative right now. They're the ones getting jumped in on, and now D2 Hustlers off the back of those 2 kills, going straight for Roshan.
Yep, and I really think that Hokori missed their play. Of course, it's difficult for them to make that decision to go into the pit before, but they don't have Chrono. You at least know that much, and you give your opponents who have Slaughter the free range to go into the pit. They don't have to use Chrono for either of those kills either. It's just still Mr. Jeans putting the team on his back. And this game continues to get scarier for them as we progress on forward. And Yuma even disassembles his Echo Saber to have a BKB if that engagement does look sketchy. It just feels like right now, Hokori are playing the less active lineup, even though they have more active heroes, just because 1 or 2 fights have gone awry. It does feel like they're not really making any more plays. RDO has a full BKB coming out to him on the Courier, but I don't even think that's going to be enough. It feels like Yuma is going to still find those Chronospheres, and you even see Yadomi finishing up a Blink Dagger, so he can start these fights if he really wants to. Huge bait around the ward.
Monster jumps in, though. They're going to try to go for Gardic first, but Gardic will survive, drops the Overgrowth. In fact, that's onto Mr. Jeans. They're now keeping him rooted up with RDO getting the attacks in, and they burn through the Aegis. First life down, but Yuma, with that Chrono, has to be the focus. He's going to push his way forward now. They get the silence onto RDO. The Chrono will drop as well. Is there any sort of defensive play to be made here? No.
Ulti off.
Yuma's BKB prevents him from getting hit by that tornado that they tried to send in. Now El Misho's going to get caught on the other side, and Hokori have to back off. And to this point, you know, ET, we had a lot of questions for the D2 Hustlers lineup coming into this. Could they get the Chronosphere combos down? What do they do when the Chronosphere isn't available? Can they continue to be aggressive? And could they get Monster this Blink Dagger in a solid timing? So far, the answer to every single one of those questions has been they've got it handled. The Chronos have been on point. Mr. Jeans continues to find the aggression in Monster while he dies there. We were talking about that Blink. He got it really earlier than we expected. Everything is really sort of coming together for them.
Yeah, Hokori take that fight knowing that they have the vision advantage, they can play up on the high ground, and they do get the Aegis out of Mr. Jean's hands, but it's also just an Aegis. It is just more time where they still are not eating any bad deaths on either of their cores. They haven't died in a very long time on either the Faceless Void or the Storm Spirit, and Yuma gets another very free Chrono where, unfortunately for RDO, he's unable to have enough time to get the Battle Trance off because he has to commit his BKB so early because of the threat of the Pangolier. Every aspect of D2 Hustlers lineup is really being worked to their fullest extent, and that's where Hokori are still struggling to find that opening. We haven't seen too many plays coming out from really anyone, and I feel like that is large in part due to Vitaly being put on the rupture duty. He is meant to rupture the Pangolier when a fight goes out. That is his only real job here, and Amisha doesn't have a Blink Dagger either, so they really don't have a true playmaker.
And they scanned Yuma up in that top lanes, though they were trying to close the gap onto him, but the Time Walk gives him away. Here comes Analog, though, but there's a BKB on this Faceless Void. He should be okay. He'll pop it now, and they'll look to turn the fight. Analog goes too far forward by himself. He's going to be taken down right away, but RDO pops the Battle Trance, looking for the damage. They'll take down Yuma. Monster in some trouble as well. Even through the BKB, the physical damage is enough to take him down, so I don't think he intended it this way, but Analog will basically act as the bait, pulling those opponents' heroes in, and now Vitaly able to get the root down onto the snap, but Devi is so close to his base that, yeah, they don't want to dive any further, and now Mr. Jeans wants to get involved, zipping forward, looking for anybody he can get. He silenced himself, but that's not going to matter. Devi comes in with the Mortimer Kisses. That takes El Misho down, but they need to get onto the cores, and they spotted RDO. They're going to try and lock him down, and now without the Battle Trance, this is going to get a little bit complicated, but well, yeah, they can't protect him right now. RDO's just going to get knocked around, taken out. Gardic will TP away, but that's not the hero you want getting out of that fight. And actually, Vitaly is not making it away either. Mr. Jeans with the Haste Rune is giving chase. He needs the Vortex. I don't think he can close the gap, though, unfortunately. So Vitaly's able to get out, but Vitaly wants back in. That seems risky as Devi, yeah, trying to do too much there. Analog was coming in on the back, but he wasn't quite there when Vitaly tries to turn around, so Devi just straight up blasts him with the max level scatter, and D2 Hustlers tack on one more kill.
And Hokori make a really nice move there originally because you're catching the Faceless Void with 10 to 15 seconds on the Chrono, and then D2 Hustlers also get very greedy, committing both of their BKB targets to actually try and kill Analog right off the bat, which they're very successful in doing, but you don't have any control for this BKB Battle Trance Troll Warlord, so of course you lose 2 heroes there. And then El Misho and Vitaly overextend themselves so far in the Storm Spirit, who didn't really have an effect on that play. They punish an Analog. You're dead again.
Man, there's just no way out for him. Analog locked in place. Devi, yeah, he does. He's got the shard, so even more lockdown. And Analog, I mean, progress is technically being made towards that BKB, but it is still several thousand gold away. So if he shows on the map, D2 Hustlers are going to come looking for him, and they've got more than enough lockdown to find that kill. You know me? Really? Oh my god.
Blink, but yeah, they got him. Look at this ward.
That is just a big time play there from Yudomi. He's showing off that blink dagger that he was able to pick up as well. So there's so much that D2 Hustlers can do right now. Blink on Yudomi, blink on Monster, zip in for Mr. Jeans. Any engagement goes from a 1v1 to a 2 or 3v1 in the matter of just a couple of seconds. And Hokori, they really couldn't even hope to have that kind of rapid response when they get caught in these engagements.
Yeah, and these are all engagements that it has to be so perfect for Hokori because you're playing into the chrono. You know you're playing into the chrono. Yuma hasn't used it in almost 3 or 4 minutes here, but it's the threat. Oh, Monster. Okay.
That's maybe a little bit too much by himself, but the Mortimer kisses are coming in. Gardic can't get out. He's dead. Yudomi finishes the kill there with a shield crash, and that's kind of just a freebie. Your Treant Protector, a little bit too far forward in that instance. It looked like maybe Monster had been the one to overextend, but they've got so much firepower coming out from that backline that it really doesn't matter now. RDO, oh boy, he's going to get pulled in by the Vortex, but Lotus is thrown out onto him. He's got a BKB, so he should be fine.
Yeah,
the question is, yeah, this is getting weird. Yeah, Hustlers are going to back off, and I don't know, if you're Hokori, you'd be pushing into a 4v5 there. That doesn't feel safe for them either. Yeah, they want to hold that. Mr. Jeans will be the one to bottle it, but I don't know, maybe they pass the bottle over to someone like Yuma, but to be honest at this point, Yuma hasn't really built much in the way of absolute direct damage, and now he's actually in some trouble. No, he's not. He's going to pop the Chrono, and it's RDO who gets taken down instead. Didn't pop the Battle Trance or the BKB there. BKB obviously wouldn't have helped against the Chrono, but doesn't do him much good not using it either way. It's both RDO and Gardic fall, and now they're going to try to get out on Vitali. You know, can't really chase there as he gets caught in some awkward geometry on the edge of that cliff. So you're able to get out a couple of heroes, but it's not the way you want RDO. Oh god, RDO to be taken down as Monster. That one is very aggressive, but he's going to be able to get away with it. BKB TP so big anytime you're going up against that Bloodseeker in particular. So he will be just fine. Not able to force anything there, but you like the fact that he's still sort of on the offensive looking for openings.
Yeah, and as odd as those events sort of ended up being, you don't actually get the tier 2 tower mid, and Gardic now has free range to heal it up. It's a little bit of a strange engagement for D2 Hustlers to go for. Of course, they're still rocking the net worth charts, and everyone on their team is able to farm up an incredible amount.
Good shackle on the Yudomi. But, yeah, there's that swashbuckle to get him onto the low ground.
Already has curl up, though. He is so farmed.
Wow, yeah, that's... He's got a Blink of Lotus and the Aghanim Shard here at 30 minutes as on what was supposed to be a position 5 Pangolier, and I suppose technically speaking he is still the position 5 hero, but you take a look at his net worth, it is higher than 3 heroes on the Hokori side, including Analog on the Invoker, who bought a Midas specifically to try and catch back up. That is not happening, at least not right now.
No, he's also the 3rd lowest level in the game. He's just not a core as of right now. He needs a few more points up in the Exhort for him to really feel like a damage dealer, and I'm surprised he's honestly going for this BKB. I think the Blink Dagger would also be very, very important for him, just forcing Mr. Jeans to commit a little bit more mana. But Mr. Jeans, on the other side, has finished up his BKB, and he is afraid of absolutely nothing. The only time he's going to feel like he's under any threat is once RDO finishes up this Basher, where he can get 100 to 0, but that's where Hokori have also missed their timing a little bit here, where the Chrono is already back up, and after an engagement where I don't think D2 Hustlers were as successful as they wanted to be when they were in the dire triangle, they're looking now, and ooh, they break on Analog, but they can't find anyone.
And we saw the Snapfire with the Aghanim Scepter actually spat. I think that was a Forge Spirit that got sent forward. So you're still going to get maybe some of the benefits of that play without having to send one of your heroes directly into the fray, potentially unprepared. But they weren't able to find anything there. But now Hokori, you're in a bit of an awkward spot. You're on your opponent's side of the map, and while you are hanging out in the west side jungle, your opponents are just taking a tier 3 tower mid. So Is it a mass TP play to try and get back on your own side? Do you look for a wraparound into an engagement? Because if you then lose that engagement, that'll be a fight on your side of the map that will almost assuredly lead D2 Hustlers either to the high ground or potentially into Roche in the next 30 seconds or so as Yuma gets pushed forward into the chrono. That's just not fair. Analog's already dead. Vitali's gone as well. They're going to lose Elmisho as well, and that's just horrible. Now Divide, well, for a brief moment, he was in some trouble there, but the overgrowth isn't going to be enough. RDO's now looking to TP home. He does make it, but 4 heroes dead. Free pass into the Roche pit, which, okay, so you're still 10 seconds away, but someone should be sticking around to scout it.
Man, Devi is doing so much for his team there. He sets up that chrono. Unfortunately, Elmisho actually walks into it, trying to shackle a target, trying to delay some of the damage coming forward. But then it's Devi who's also giving vision of RDO and Gardic, and they can't find their own entrance into the fight. And unfortunately, now this is the Ag Shard, this is another Aegis that I don't think Yuma has ever felt like he's going to die in this game. He even goes for the Mantis style, so that way he is even harder for this troll to stay on. So I think give this Aegis over to Mr. James, and again, oh, Yuma's actually going to take it? Okay, that's interesting. I think they go for the Aegis on the Faceless Void because they want him to start actually laying into these buildings, and this will allow him to play a little bit more aggressively, but more importantly, he gets to pick up the shard for free, a shard that is incredibly obnoxious to deal with and one that you are always going to need to be concerned with, because right now, the initiation on D2 Hustler's side is so casual. All it is Mr. Gene zipping in and out, getting a Vortex or Devi Wamba, Blink Scatter Blasting. It feels like anytime D2 Hustlers can start the fight, while Hokori are still waiting for that initiation that has to come in from what feels like Elmisho. If Elmisho isn't finding that shackle to start off these fights, there isn't a fight that's starting for them. That's why every single engagement has been more or less Hokori running away from the D2 Hustlers lineup.
And it just feels so bad right now looking at the net worth. We were looking at the levels earlier. We can take another look. This is... Actually, I had to double check that I had the sorting correct. This is actually correct. Every single hero on D2 Hustler's side is either equal to or above the highest level on the Hokori side, which that is already bad enough, but you've got an Invoker as well who kind of needs as many levels as possible to get those points up. We have seen very little from Analog in this game. This Hand of Midas has been better than nothing, but not the sort of comeback play that he's needed, and right now it really just kind of feels like it's down to, as you said, Elmisho to get the initiation. Maybe you get an overgrowth from the tree, but then after that it's RDO and not much else. The damage from the other cores just really isn't there.
Yeah, and the problem just continues to get worse, especially because Analog is still looking for a lot of levels where he's been really attached to his team at the hip. He needs to get sort of forced out or has the overgrowth immediately there to try and stop the Pangolier from getting immediately onto him. It just feels like right now Hokori are playing a losing game, and the only option they have is to get as much farm on this Troll Warlord as possible before D2 Hustlers finally decide to break their base. And that is something that D2 Hustlers are not very good at just yet. It does feel like there is going to be a struggle with them actually sieging onto these buildings, something that the Train Protector exasperates, but at the same time, it's such a safe position to be in. If you're D2 Hustlers, if your opponents ever try to make a play or leave their base, you just kill them. If they don't, you get the entire map. So they get to walk into a lot of these very casual item timings. Like right now, Yuma's sitting on 3.7k gold and doesn't need to buy out any of these Scotty components just yet because there's no real reason for him to. Your opponents aren't really playing the game right now, nor can they, because it would just be more fuel for the D2 Hustlers' fire.
BKB was finished off by Analog, so at least they've got that, but they push forward onto Vitali. There's nothing for that Bloodseeker to do. He'll be taken down. He does have a buyback available, but I'm not really sure how much of an impact that's going to have at this point. And he may actually just have to buy back because RDO's caught. Chronosphere will go down. Can they keep him alive? No, they cannot. Mr. Jeans will get the kill, and RDO actually does not have his buyback. He is 1,400 gold short, so he is out for over a minute. I don't know if D2 Hustlers are aware of that, but they should be finding out relatively soon as they zip back in. There's Gardic going to get caught out in the trees, and this one's just turning into an absolute massacre. Elmisho's going to get taken down. Vitali will be dying here again, and don't know if there's much left for Hokori to do. Analog, he's up. He's got a
Yeah, they
BKB, but
call
yeah,
it.
that's just a straight GG. That really was
Okay.
their best chance. They had nothing left to fight with.
Yeah, that was just simply RDO TPing back to try and defend his final racks with the Basher completed, but he gets chronoed. He doesn't get BKB or Battle Trance off. Of course, if you commit either of those, you're going to get chronoed anyway, but still, that was a really good recovery from D2 Hustlers to turn that early game on its head, and some fantastic performances from honestly everyone. And Yuma really is the player that broke this game open. I think his first two chronos were incredibly important, especially for getting that tier 1 tower mid. It just felt like it broke open the map. And I think Hokori, with how successful their lanes were coming out of draft, I think we needed to see more aggression coming out from Analog and El Micho. I think every single time they went top, they should have been killing Monster, or every single time they went bottom, they should have been killing Yuma. I think they were a little bit too indecisive in their plays, where Analog, who is supposed to be this heavy rotating Quaswex invoker, never really got to make those easy rotations, where you look at the other side of that coin and Mr. Jeans, who was making far less rotations, but every time he made one, it was successful. As soon as it's successful, he walks back into the jungle, farms up an 11-minute Orchid, and it felt like D2 Hustlers were just way too clean with their teamfight executions. And Hokori never really found those punishments, even though there are those very long cooldowns. I feel like Hokori just played way too slow in this game.
Slow and not efficient enough, especially with the Troll and the Invoker. That becomes so much more important. It's not about how many opportunities. As we saw, it's the ones that you don't get. Analog makes a rotation, doesn't get a kill, walked back to mid near the beginning around that sort of 8 to 10 minute mark. That can't happen. You are wasting so much time on the Invoker that you really can't afford to, because once the Invoker falls behind, he does not farm nearly as quickly as someone like the Storm. And you saw the Hand of Midas as sort of a desperation play to get back in. It just doesn't work, in conjunction with RDO maybe being a little bit further behind on his item build compared to his opponent, and Vitaly. I mean, we had our complaints about position 3 Vitaly in the draft. You see now how sort of hit or miss that it can really be.
Yeah, and I really think that if they weren't banking on their lanes as hard as they did, they just needed to go harder. I think their lineup was meant to go insane in the lanes and then snowball it. But as soon as you start playing from behind, this Bloodseeker was picked up so early, and we keep seeing the Bloodseeker picked up versus the Pango, and the Pango not really caring about it at all. If Vitaly's only job in this game is to rupture your position 5 Pango, then why do you have this Bloodseeker? It feels like there aren't that many forcing moves anymore for this Bloodseeker to make. I think that's why a lot of teams have started slotting it into the position 1, because Pos 3 Bloodseeker, you can't really afford to not have any playmakers on your team. And I think that was the big issue for Hokori. As soon as those lanes weren't a complete wash, they didn't have someone to go in first and actually find those initiations, where D2 Hustlers, they have 3 or 4 players who can always start an engagement. It just feels like D2 Hustlers were way more active, way more successful in their team fights, and way cleaner in their execution. So I think a very well-deserved victory.
Absolutely. They were firing on all cylinders. Everything worked out exactly the way that they wanted. Every question that we had asked of their lineup in the draft gets a positive response. So D2 Hustlers get the win there. They salvage that 1-1 draw, and both of these squads now done for the day. We are moving on to series number 2, and we are going to be checking out a matchup between No Ping and 4Zoomers. And I believe that is going to be 4Zoomers' final appearance of this group stage. They've got one more shot. Statistically speaking, they cannot catch Team Team. They're too many games behind, but that second place slot is still wide open for them. So we'll see if they can make that happen, or if No Ping are going to be able to continue pushing their way up the standings as they continue catching up to the other squads here schedule-wise. So we are going to be moving along into that series in about 10 minutes here. So for now, we will be jumping into a break. When we come back, though, it will be the start of No Ping versus 4Zoomers. So sit tight. We'll be bringing you game 1 of that series in just a little bit.